evening, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. I'm Kelly David, Director for the Foundation for Angelman Syndrome Therapeutics. I do want to let everyone know before we get started that this will be recorded and available for playback at cureangelman.org.
Hi guys, this is Amanda Moore, CEO of the Angelman Syndrome Foundation, and I'm happy to be here with you guys this evening.
Hi there, Noah Firestone.
Good evening, everyone. Brad Sheely, President and Chair of the Canadian Angelman Syndrome Society.
And joining us this evening, we have Dr. Scott Stromatt, Chief Medical Officer of Genetic Biotherapeutics. Thank you for joining us. We're all excited to hear more about the upcoming trial, so we'll get started with the first question. GeneTx Biotherapeutics, in partnership with Ultragenyx Pharmaceutical, recently announced that the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, has cleared GeneTx's investigational new drug, IND, application for clinical trial. What does this mean?
To test, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
The U.S. Food and Drug Administration tests or reviews all investigational new drug applications before they're permitted to be tested. So they review all your manufacturing, your preclinical work to make sure that everything's been analyzed appropriately before anybody can be tested in the United States. We are very excited to be to receive the acceptance by the FDA, and we're looking forward to starting the trial very soon.
Dr. Stromatt, thank you so much for being here with us tonight answering these questions. I just was curious, what type of drug is GeneTx bringing to clinical trial?
GeneTx 102 is a drug we're bringing to clinic as an investigational antisense oligonucleotide.
Hi, how you doing? I'd like to know, what is an ASO and how does GeneTx 102 work?
You know, antisense oligonucleotides are composed of RNA and DNA and/or RNA and DNA. And what they do is they bind to RNA in the body, and they can either dial up or dial down the production of proteins. And the proteins are involved in various disease processes. GeneTx 102 is designed to target the father's normally silent UB3A gene and turn it back on and to produce this missing protein.
Good evening, Dr. Stromatt. Is GeneTx 102 considered a gene therapy?
No, GeneTx 102 is not gene therapy. The drug does not fundamentally alter the gene of the individual. It basically turns on the normally silent father's gene, because the mother's gene, as you know, is either deleted or it's been mutated. So you don't produce a protein, UB3A protein, or if you do, it's either non-functional or it's in lower quantities.
GeneTx announced that they will be initiating a phase 1/2 study called KickAAS in early 2020. Can you please tell us what is a phase 1/2 study and why is GeneTx's study named KickAAS?
Yeah. Usually clinical research, there are three phases. Phase 1 is when you're testing initial safety. Phase 2 is you're looking at efficacy at different doses. And phase 3 is when you're testing a lot more patients, getting a lot more data on efficacy and safety. And so here in phase 1, we're starting at low doses and we're moving our way up. And in phase 2, we are going to be doing this as a phase 1/2 study because we're also looking at efficacy. Now, the KickAAS stands for knockdown of UBA3A protein, or excuse me, antisense in kids with Angelman syndrome.
So have ASOs been used in patients with other diseases?
Yes, ASO has been used in a number of diseases, including neurological disorders. In 2016, there was an ASO approved for SMA, or spinal muscular atrophy. And this drug is administered the same way GeneTx 102 will be, which is through a lumbar puncture. There's also been a number of ASOs currently in clinical trials for Huntington's, Batten's disease, ALS, and others.
When will GeneTx start the KickAAS study of GTX 102?
Yes, we're planning to start the study here in the first half of this year and much sooner than June. That's what we're working and striving for. We'll have a lot more details on February 15th, International Angelman Syndrome Day. We'll have an announcement then, and we'll give more information.
So who can participate in this study?
The eligibility criteria for the study, the number of patients that will be enrolled, the required assessment, the exact location of the study, that all will be available to the community on February 15th.
Great. Can you share any information about where the study will take place?
Yeah, the study is going to be held hopefully at 7 different cities around the country and in Canada. So Boston, Chicago, Cincinnati, Denver, Los Angeles, New York City, and Ottawa, Canada.
So can you tell us a little bit, what is GeneTx Biotherapeutics' role in the KickAAS study?
GeneTx Biotherapeutics is a sponsor for the KickAAS study. As a sponsor, GeneTx is responsible for, a lot of the important element, conducting the trial, selecting the study sites, monitoring the study, making sure that it's done according to good clinical principles, good clinical practice. These are international standards about how clinical studies have to be done. So we're involved in running the trial basically soup to nuts.
What is the Foundation for Angelman Syndrome Therapeutic, FAST's role in the KickAAS study?
Well, FAST has no role in the KickAAS study. FAST is funded the initial preclinical studies for the antisense oligonucleotide for the treatment of Angelman syndrome. That was done by Dr. Scott Dindo at Texas A&M. In December of 2017, FAST formed GeneTx Biotherapeutics. It's a limited liability company, and licensed the technology from Dr. Dindo and Texas A&M University.
Can you tell me who Ultragenyx Pharmaceutical and what is their role in this study?
Yeah, Ultragenyx is a publicly traded company. It's a biopharmaceutical company that specializes in rare diseases. And they took out an option to buy GeneTx, and they basically partnered with us to develop the molecule. In fact, a lot of their staff are involved in the manufacturing, oversight, in conducting the clinical trial, strategic guidance. So there's a whole team of people working with GeneTx in terms of doing this clinical study.
Regarding the clinical study, can you share, will there be a placebo or a control group?
In this study, there is no placebo or control. So everybody in the study will get GTX 102, and this is referred to as an open label study.
So I understand that in the meeting that GTX 102 is given by lumbar puncture. Can you just explain a little bit about what that is?
Yeah. A lumbar puncture, an LP, otherwise known as a spinal tap, is where you take a needle and put it into the back. It's usually in the lumbar back, the lower back. And your spine is a series of building blocks of bones. And in between each bone is a spongy material called a disc. And so the needle is inserted down the lower back into the spinal canal. And in the spinal canal, you have the spinal cord, you have spinal fluid, and the spinal cord goes all the way up to the brain. And this is all bathed in cerebral spinal fluid, which circulates. And down in the lumbar region, the nerves of the spinal cord become a lot of very fine filaments. And so you can put a needle in there, take a little bit of the fluid out and inject the drug, and then it circulates throughout the spinal cord and the brain.
When will these sites actually be open for enrollment?
The sites will be open. The process of activating a site to be open for clinical study is a long process. You have to have budgets, you have to have contracts, you have to get research committee approval, and every institution is different. So it'll anywhere from a month to several months. So we'll have more information on that in February 15th. We'll probably do another webinar right after February 15th and explain more about the study and when things are going to be open.
Can you tell me, can children participate in another study at the same time as they're enrolled in this study?
So the question is, can other patients participate or patients participate in this study in other stations? And the answer is no in general. You can't be in an investigational drug on an investigational drug as well as on this one. Now, if you're in a natural history study, that may be a possibility. It won't matter for us in our clinical study, but it may matter for the other study. So do talk to your investigator, do talk to the other study doctors to whether they can be in both. But in general, when you're on an investigational drug, it can only be one at a time.
Great information. Thank you. Where can I get more information about the study?
Yes. You can get more information about the study February 15th, International Angelman Syndrome Day. We'll be releasing another press release. We'll have an operational website for the protocol. We will also be putting information on clinicaltrials.gov. Clinicaltrials.gov, you can enter there, type in GeneTx 102, and you can find information about the protocol. On the protocol page that we'll have, there'll be information about the study, information about the eligibility criteria, and then you can answer a series of questions. And if you're eligible, then you'll receive contact information for the study site closest to you, for the name and the email for that individual.
Wonderful. And last question for you tonight. Will GeneTx be holding any additional webinars?
Yes, GeneTx will hold multiple webinars. Our plan is to keep the community informed as we get more information about this program and share it broadly with the community.
All right, Dr. Stromatt, those are all the questions we have for you. I'd like to thank Brad, Noah, and Amanda for joining me in this webinar. And thank you, Dr. Stromatt, for taking the time to walk our community through these questions. We are all very excited about the things to come. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and have a great night.